Value yourself first, because if you don't, life will keep showing you that others won't either. Think about that for a moment. Most people give everything they have to others while ignoring their own needs. They try to earn love, they try to prove their worth, and they keep waiting for someone to give them permission to feel important. That's why so many end up drained, frustrated, and stuck. This message is different. It's about turning that around. It's about putting your self-respect at the center of your life. When you value yourself first, you make stronger choices. You stop chasing people who don't respect you. You stop settling for less. You begin to create standards that protect your time, your health, and your peace. If you've been living small because you forgot your worth, this is the turning point. Stay here, because what you'll hear can help you unlock the potential that's been waiting inside you. Chapter 1. Build self-worth by valuing your own choices first. When you begin to build self-worth, the very first step is to start valuing your own choices. Most people underestimate the weight of the choices they make every single day. They hand over their power to others. They second-guess themselves. They wait for someone else to approve, validate, or reassure them that what they're doing is right. And what happens is that over time, they lose trust in themselves. They live by other people's rules, and eventually, they forget that their own decisions matter most. If you want to unlock your true potential, you must begin by taking your choices seriously. Think about it every morning when you wake up. You're faced with decisions. What time do you get out of bed? How do you spend your first hour? Who do you give your energy to? Each choice you make, even the smallest ones, either strengthens or weakens your sense of worth. When you start recognizing that your life is shaped by your decisions, you'll begin to hold yourself with more respect. Many people live on autopilot. They copy what others are doing. They ignore their own instincts. They feel safer following the crowd because if they fail, they can say, "Well, I just did what everyone else was doing." That's not real living. That's avoiding responsibility. The truth is, self-worth is built when you own your decisions, whether they succeed or fail. You can't grow if you never trust yourself enough to choose your own path. Think of how it feels when you let someone else make all the decisions for you. Deep down, you start to feel small. You feel invisible. You begin to believe that maybe your thoughts don't matter, maybe your feelings don't count. Over time, you shrink. That's the cost of giving away your choices. On the other hand, when you make a decision, even a simple one like saying no when you really mean no, you feel a surge of respect for yourself. You stand taller. You breathe a little easier. You feel alive because you chose for yourself. Building self-worth doesn't mean you'll always make the perfect decision. Nobody does. You'll make mistakes. You'll face consequences. But even in those moments, when the outcome is not what you hoped, you gain something far more valuable. You gain self-respect. Because you know you didn't hide. You know you didn't compromise your truth just to keep someone else happy. You know you took ownership of your life. That feeling is priceless, and it's the foundation of confidence. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they have to wait for confidence to appear before they can take action. But confidence comes after action. It comes when you decide for yourself and prove through experience that you can rely on your judgment. Every time you value your choice, every time you say, "This is what I believe is right for me," you add another layer of trust in yourself. That trust becomes unshakable over time. You can see this in simple, everyday moments. Think about going to a restaurant with friends. Most people glance around the table before ordering. They wonder what others are picking. They choose something safe, not necessarily what they want, but what feels acceptable. And after the meal, they don't feel satisfied. That small moment might not seem important, but it's a reflection of a deeper problem. When you ignore what you really want, you train yourself to believe your choices aren't worthy. Now, imagine the opposite. You scan the menu, decide what you truly want, and order with confidence. You feel good because you honored your own preference. Over time, these small acts create a strong sense of worth. Another area where this matters is in relationships. Too often, people stay silent about what they really feel. They go along with things they don't agree with. They put their needs at the bottom of the list. Why? Because they fear conflict. They fear rejection. But every time you hide your real choice, you chip away at your own value. You might keep the peace on the outside, but inside you lose peace with yourself. And nothing destroys self-worth faster than betraying yourself for acceptance. To reverse this, you must practice choosing honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. At first, it might feel strange. You may face resistance from people who are used to you always agreeing. But in the long run, you'll notice something remarkable. People begin to respect you more when you respect yourself. They might not always like your choices, but they will see that you stand firm. And even more importantly, you'll respect yourself more deeply. That's the turning point when your own approval means more than anyone else's. Building self-worth also means being clear about what you want in life. Too many people drift through their days without direction, simply reacting to whatever comes. But when you stop and ask yourself, what do I truly want? What matters most to me? You take back control. Write it down. Be honest. Don't filter it through what you think others expect of you. This is your life. When you start making choices based on your true desires and values, you start living with integrity. And integrity builds self-worth like nothing else. Another key step is to stop apologizing for your choices when you've done nothing wrong. Notice how often people say, "I'm sorry," when they're simply expressing what they need. "I'm sorry I can't make it tonight. I'm sorry I need time for myself." What they're really saying is, "I don't believe my needs are as important as yours." Start replacing "I'm sorry" with "Thank you for understanding. Thank you for respecting my time. Thank you for giving me space." This small change shifts your psychology. It tells your mind that your choices are valid. You stop carrying guilt for honoring yourself. Self-worth grows in environments where your choices are consistent with your values. If you value health, then your choices must reflect that: what you eat, how you move, how you rest. If you value honesty, then your choices must reflect truth, even when it's difficult. When your daily decisions align with what you believe in, you experience inner strength. There is no greater power than living in alignment. The problem is, many people ignore their inner voice. They silence it because it feels easier to conform. But ignoring your own voice is the fastest way to lose yourself. Start small. Make one choice today that reflects your truth. It could be saying no to a demand that drains you. It could be dedicating time to a personal project. It could be speaking up in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. Each act reinforces the message: my choices matter. My life matters. One of the hardest but most rewarding practices is learning to live with the consequences of your decisions without regret. When you make a choice, stand behind it. Even if it doesn't turn out as planned, resist the temptation to dwell on "what if?" Instead, ask, "What did I learn? How did this strengthen me?" This mindset transforms mistakes into growth. It prevents you from falling into self-blame and keeps your self-worth intact. Another psychological barrier people face is the need for constant approval. From childhood, many are conditioned to seek praise from parents, teachers, and later, peers. That conditioning can trap adults in a cycle of people-pleasing, but approval is unstable. It shifts with moods, opinions, and circumstances. If your worth is tied to approval, you'll always feel uncertain. The way out is to wean yourself off external validation and practice internal validation. At the end of the day, ask yourself, am I proud of the choices I made today? If the answer is yes, that's all you need. If the answer is no, adjust tomorrow. The point is, you become your own standard. Think about the people you admire most. They are not the ones who lived according to others' approval. They are the ones who trusted themselves enough to choose differently, even when it was unpopular. Their self-worth came from valuing their own path. You can do the same. Practical steps can make this easier. Start with a decision journal. Every day, write down 3 choices you made that honored your values. Maybe you chose to exercise instead of scrolling through your phone. Maybe you chose to read instead of gossip. Maybe you chose to save money instead of spending recklessly. These notes will remind you of the power you already have. Over time, you'll see a pattern. You are capable of making strong choices. This practice will strengthen your self-worth one day at a time. Also, practice pausing before decisions. Most people rush. They react. But when you pause and ask, is this choice true to me? You create space for self-respect. Even a 5-second pause can change the entire direction of your decision. And those decisions, stacked over time, build the life you want. Building self-worth through valuing your choices also requires patience. You won't undo years of self-doubt overnight. But each honest choice builds momentum. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. And soon, you'll look back and realize you no longer live in fear of what others think. You'll see that your life feels stronger, more stable, more authentic. When you value your own choices first, you set the foundation for every other area of growth. Without this, no habit, no goal, no dream can truly last. Because if you don't believe your choices matter, you'll always sabotage yourself. But when you build self-worth by standing behind your decisions, you create an inner strength that no one can take away. Your future depends on this principle. Every goal you want to achieve begins with one decision: to trust yourself enough to choose your path. Start today. Value your choices, stand behind them, and watch your self-worth rise to levels you never imagined possible. Chapter 2. Learn to trust yourself before asking for advice. Trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, and the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. If you cannot trust yourself, you will live your life leaning on everyone else, waiting for their permission, their approval, and their direction. And when you do that, you never discover how capable you truly are. Learning to trust yourself before asking for advice is not about ignoring the wisdom of others. It is about making sure you believe in your own judgment first. When you stop running to everyone else before making a decision, you start teaching your mind that your own voice matters. Think about how often people hesitate to make even small choices. They want someone to tell them what to eat, what to wear, what job to take, who to date, how to spend their money. The list goes on. And while asking for advice can sometimes bring clarity, it can also weaken you if it becomes a habit. The danger is that you forget how to think for yourself. You become so dependent on what others say that you start to silence your own instincts. The real tragedy is that many people don't even realize they are doing this. They think they are being careful or smart, but in truth, they are running away from responsibility. Trusting yourself begins with believing that your life is your responsibility. Nobody else lives with the outcomes of your choices the way you do. Nobody else carries your thoughts to bed at night. Nobody else feels the weight of your missed opportunities or the satisfaction of your achievements. When you understand this, you see how foolish it is to always put someone else's opinion above your own. You can consider advice, yes, but it must come after you have first listened to yourself. Developing this kind of trust requires practice. Start by making small decisions on your own without consulting anyone. Choose what feels right to you. It may be as simple as deciding how to spend your evening or what project to focus on first in the day. What matters is that you prove to yourself that you are capable of thinking clearly and acting on it. Every time you follow through on your own judgment, you strengthen your inner confidence. Confidence doesn't appear out of thin air, it grows through consistent action. One of the reasons people fail to trust themselves is fear of being wrong. They think, what if I make the wrong choice? What if I fail? What if I look foolish? But here's the truth. You will make mistakes. Everyone does. But mistakes are not evidence that you can't trust yourself. They are proof that you're willing to take responsibility for your life. And the more responsibility you take, the stronger you become. Advice from others can sometimes prevent a mistake, but it can also prevent a valuable lesson. And lessons learned through experience are the ones that build lasting self-trust. There is also another danger in relying too much on advice. You lose your uniqueness. The way you see the world is unlike anyone else. Your experiences, your strengths, your desires, your pain, all of these shape how you make decisions. When you ignore that, and instead follow advice blindly, you erase your individuality. You end up living a life designed by someone else. That is why so many people reach middle age feeling empty. They realize they've been living according to the script of their parents, their friends, or society. The sooner you start trusting your own voice, the sooner you start building a life that feels authentic to you. Practical steps can help you strengthen this muscle. Begin by asking yourself questions before you seek advice. For example, if you're faced with a choice, ask, what do I truly want here? What outcome would make me feel proud? What feels honest to me? Write down your answers. Sit with them. Only after you've clarified your own thinking should you consider advice from others. That way, you're not replacing your voice with theirs. You're comparing and weighing both. And your voice still leads. Another step is to reflect on your past decisions. Look back at times when you trusted yourself. Maybe you chose a path that others doubted, but it turned out well. Maybe you took a risk that felt right in your heart, and it taught you something life-changing. Remember those moments. They are evidence that you can trust yourself. Too often, people remember only the times they got it wrong. But if you look honestly, you'll see that your instincts have been right more often than you think. Trusting yourself also means being comfortable with silence. Many people rush to ask for advice the moment uncertainty appears because silence makes them anxious. They want quick reassurance. But growth comes when you sit with that silence and allow yourself to think. Give yourself time to process. Sometimes clarity comes not from talking it out with 10 different people, but from being alone with your thoughts until the answer rises. This practice develops patience, and patience strengthens trust. There's another piece of psychology at play here. When you always ask for advice first, you train others to believe you can't handle things on your own. They begin to see you as dependent, as someone who needs to be guided. This affects how they treat you. They may stop respecting your opinions. They may stop considering you a leader. On the other hand, when you trust yourself and show that you can make your own calls, people begin to take you more seriously. They see you as capable, decisive, reliable, and that reputation opens doors. A critical point here is not to confuse arrogance with self-trust. Arrogance is refusing to learn from anyone. Self-trust is knowing that you can think for yourself first, and then evaluate advice with clarity. It's about balance. You're not closing yourself off from wisdom, you're putting your wisdom first. You're saying, I am capable of making sound judgments. I'll consider what others say, but I will decide. That's strength. Think about the impact this has on daily life. When you trust yourself, you waste less time hesitating. You don't spend weeks stuck in indecision because you're waiting to hear what others think. You move, you act, you learn. And because you act more often, you achieve more. This builds momentum, and momentum builds a stronger belief in yourself. Self-trust also creates peace of mind. When you constantly rely on advice, you live in a state of anxiety. What if their advice is wrong? What if they have hidden motives? What if they don't understand me fully? But when you trust yourself, that anxiety fades. Even if things don't go perfectly, you can rest knowing you chose what felt right for you. That peace is worth more than temporary reassurance. There's another subtle but powerful shift that happens when you learn to trust yourself. You stop blaming others for your outcomes. If you always act on advice, it's easy to say, "Well, they told me to do it." That mindset keeps you weak. But when you trust yourself, you own your outcomes. If it goes well, you celebrate. If it doesn't, you learn. Either way, you grow. That sense of ownership is what builds maturity and resilience. Practical exercises can deepen this trust. Start each day by writing one decision you will make for yourself without seeking advice. It doesn't have to be life-changing. It could be choosing how you spend your free hour. It could be deciding what to invest your time in today. Do it consistently. At the end of the week, review how it felt. You'll notice that with each decision, your confidence grows. Another exercise is to practice speaking your choice out loud before hearing anyone else's opinion. If you're in a group and a decision comes up, say your view first. Don't wait to see what others think. Declare what feels right to you. This simple act sends a message to your mind: I can lead. Over time, it becomes second nature. When you learn to trust yourself, something powerful happens. You stop living in constant doubt. Doubt is heavy. It keeps you from moving forward. But trust lifts that weight. You begin to walk with certainty. You stop fearing mistakes because you know you can handle them. You stop craving approval because you approve of yourself. And you stop depending on others because you know you can rely on you. Imagine what your life could look like if you mastered this. You'd be bolder in pursuing opportunities. You'd set clearer boundaries in relationships. You'd follow your goals without second-guessing. You'd live with less stress because your inner compass would guide you. All of this begins the moment you decide to start trusting yourself before seeking advice. In the end, advice from others can be valuable, but it must never replace your own judgment. Your life is yours to live. Your voice is the one that matters most. Trust it. Strengthen it. Stand by it. When you do, you'll discover a confidence that no setback can destroy and a freedom that no approval can match. That is how you begin to unlock your true potential.
Chapter 3. Acknowledge your emotions and give them honest attention. Most people grow up learning how to ignore, hide, or run from their emotions. They are told not to cry, not to show anger, not to reveal fear, not to be too sensitive. Over time, they carry that training into adulthood, and it becomes a habit to push feelings aside instead of facing them. But here is the truth. If you do not acknowledge your emotions and give them honest attention, they will control you from the shadows. They will influence your choices, your relationships, and your future, often in ways you don't even notice. The key to building a strong and valuable life is to recognize what you feel and to deal with it directly, without judgment. Your emotions are signals. They are your mind and body trying to tell you something about your life. When you feel sadness, it is pointing to something missing or lost. When you feel anger, it is showing you that something feels unfair or violated. When you feel joy, it is reminding you that something matters deeply to you. If you ignore those signals, you cut yourself off from wisdom that could guide your growth. Too many people are afraid of their emotions, but there is nothing to fear in being honest with yourself. What you should fear is pretending to feel nothing at all, because that denial leaves you stuck. Paying attention to emotions begins with slowing down. Most people rush from one thing to the next without ever pausing to ask, what am I actually feeling right now? They cover up emotions with distractions, scrolling, entertainment, work, food, anything that keeps them from sitting with themselves. But if you want to live with real self-worth, you must stop and notice. You must name the feeling. For example, instead of saying I'm fine, admit I feel disappointed, or I feel anxious, or I feel hopeful. Naming the emotion is powerful because it brings clarity. It moves the feeling from confusion to awareness. Awareness is the first step to control. Once you acknowledge what you feel, the next step is to accept it without guilt. Many people judge themselves for their emotions. They think, I shouldn't feel angry, or I shouldn't feel jealous, or I should be stronger than this. That mindset creates shame. And shame makes you hide even more. But here is the truth. Emotions are not right or wrong, they just are. They are part of being human. You cannot improve yourself if you start by denying your own humanity. Acceptance does not mean staying stuck in negative feelings. It means respecting that they exist so you can work with them. There is great power in learning to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. If you feel sadness, allow yourself to experience it. If you feel fear, acknowledge it instead of pretending you are fearless. If you feel excitement, embrace it fully instead of holding back. By giving emotions space, you begin to understand them. You can ask, why do I feel this way? What is this feeling pointing to? What can I learn from this? That process transforms emotions into teachers instead of enemies. Another benefit of acknowledging your emotions is that it strengthens your relationships. Think about how often conflict happens because people don't express what they really feel. They hold it in until it bursts out in unhealthy ways. They give the silent treatment, they lash out, or they distance themselves without explanation. But when you practice honest attention to your emotions, you can communicate them clearly. You can say, I feel hurt when this happens, or I feel grateful for what you did. This builds trust with others because they know you are being real, and trust is the foundation of all healthy relationships. Ignoring emotions, on the other hand, leads to long-term damage. It builds resentment. It creates stress in the body. Studies have shown that suppressed emotions can even lead to physical illness. That is the price of neglecting what you feel. You might think you are strong by ignoring your emotions, but real strength comes from facing them. When you acknowledge emotions, you process them. When you process them, you release them. That release creates freedom and energy for growth. Practical ways to give emotions attention are simple but powerful. One method is journaling. Take a notebook and write honestly about what you feel without censoring yourself. Write as if nobody else will ever see it. This practice gives you a safe space to express what is inside. Another method is mindful reflection. At the end of the day, close your eyes and scan through your experiences. Ask yourself, what moments brought me joy today? What moments triggered frustration? What moments left me uneasy? This habit helps you become more aware of your emotional pattern. Another effective step is to talk to someone you trust. Not to dump your emotions, but to share them clearly and openly. The act of putting feelings into words helps you understand them better. Sometimes you don't even know exactly what you feel until you try to explain it. This is why therapy, coaching, or deep conversations with trusted friends can be transformative. But remember, it only works if you are honest. Hiding your true emotions, even in those settings, keeps you stuck. It's also important to create space for positive emotion. Many people dwell only on negative feelings, analyzing them endlessly, while they ignore joy, pride, or gratitude. But acknowledging positive emotions is just as essential. When you feel proud of yourself, take time to celebrate. When you feel grateful, express it out loud. When you feel joy, allow yourself to experience it fully. These moments fuel self-worth and remind you that life is not only about struggles, but also about victories. One reason people avoid emotions is the fear of being overwhelmed. They believe if they open the door, they will drown in feelings. But emotions work the opposite way. When you acknowledge them, they begin to move through you. When you suppress them, they pile up until they explode. Giving emotions attention is not weakness, it is prevention. It is the healthy way to release pressure before it builds into something destructive. Trust also grows when you honor your emotions. When you listen to how you feel, you begin to rely on your inner signals. For example, if you feel uneasy about a situation, that is information. It might mean something is off. If you ignore it, you may regret it later. But if you pay attention, you may avoid harm. Emotions are not always perfect guides, but they are valuable messengers. Respecting them teaches you to respect yourself. This practice also helps you build resilience. Life will bring challenges. You cannot avoid stress, loss, or failure. But when you face emotions honestly, you develop the strength to move through hardship without being crushed by it. You don't deny pain, but you also don't let it define you. You acknowledge it, process it, and grow stronger. Over time, this builds an inner toughness that allows you to face life with courage. There is another critical part of emotional honesty: self-compassion. Too many people are harsh on themselves for how they feel. They tell themselves to get over it or to be tough. But true growth comes when you show kindness to yourself in moments of difficulty. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is giving yourself the same understanding you would give to a loved one. It is saying, it's okay to feel this way. It doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. That mindset allows healing and prevents the cycle of shame. Acknowledging emotions also creates clarity about your needs. For example, feeling exhausted may mean you need rest. Feeling lonely may mean you need connection. Feeling anxious may mean you need to prepare or change something. When you pay attention, emotions reveal unmet needs. When you meet those needs, you improve your life. Ignoring emotions leaves you guessing, while listening to them gives you direction. In daily practice, you can develop small habits that keep you emotionally aware. When you wake up, take a moment to notice how you feel before rushing into the day. When you eat, notice whether you are eating because you are hungry or because you are stressed. When you finish a task, notice if it leaves you satisfied or drained. These check-ins keep you connected to yourself. They prevent you from drifting through life disconnected from your own experience. Acknowledging emotions requires courage. It's easier to stay busy, to distract, to pretend. But the cost of avoidance is high. You lose self-awareness, you lose authenticity, and you lose control. Facing emotions takes bravery, but it also brings freedom. When you know how you feel and why, nobody can manipulate you easily. You are not pushed around by hidden forces inside. You become steady. Over time, giving your emotions attention makes you more grounded. You stop reacting impulsively because you understand your feelings before they take over. You stop fearing vulnerability because you know emotions don't make you weak. You stop hiding from yourself because you realize honesty is the only path to strength. That level of awareness changes not only how you see yourself, but also how others see you. People respect those who are real, who are not afraid to express what they feel. That respect begins with your own self-respect. When you build the habit of acknowledging emotions, you create a life that is authentic, balanced, and deeply fulfilling. You stop running, you stop hiding, and you stop carrying hidden burdens. Instead, you face what is inside, process it, and move forward lighter and stronger. This is what it means to value yourself first. You cannot truly value yourself if you deny what you feel.
Self-worth demands honesty, and honesty begins with emotions. The life you want requires emotional awareness. Every relationship, every goal, every decision depends on it. If you want strength, start with honesty. If you want peace, start with awareness. If you want growth, start with attention. Give yourself that gift. Pay attention to your emotions. Respect them. Learn from them. Because when you do, you unlock a power that transforms everything around you.
Chapter 4. Treat your own needs as important as others' needs. One of the greatest challenges people face is learning how to balance the care they give to others with the care they give to themselves. Too often, individuals grow up believing that putting everyone else first is the highest virtue, while their own needs are treated as less important or even selfish. But this mindset leads to exhaustion, resentment, and a loss of identity. To value yourself fully, you must learn to treat your own needs as important as the needs of others. This is not about neglecting people or refusing to serve them. It is about remembering that your life matters too, and if you do not respect your own needs, no one else truly will. When you constantly put yourself last, you begin to teach the world how to treat you. People notice when you always say yes, even when you are tired. They notice when you sacrifice your time and energy, even at the cost of your well-being. And once they see that, they begin to expect it from you. Soon it becomes your role, the one who gives, who bends, who stretches. Over time, you start to feel invisible, like your desires don't count. That is the cost of not valuing your needs. The truth is, you cannot live with real dignity if you are always at the bottom of your own list. Treating your needs as important does not mean ignoring others. It means creating balance. Think of how much better you serve people when you are rested, clear-minded, and strong. If you are running on empty, your help becomes half-hearted. If you are constantly drained, your kindness becomes forced. But when your needs are respected, when you allow yourself rest, growth, and peace, you show up stronger for the people you care about. Meeting your own needs first does not make you selfish. It makes you more effective, more reliable, and more authentic. Start by identifying what your real needs are. Many people confuse wants with needs. A need is something that sustains your health, your growth, and your peace of mind. It could be time alone, physical exercise, meaningful work, healthy boundaries, supportive relationships, or opportunities to learn. These are the pillars that keep you whole. Once you are clear about what matters, you must protect those needs with the same seriousness you would protect someone you love. If a friend asked you for help, you would do everything possible to support them. You must give yourself the same level of commitment. One of the most practical ways to respect your needs is learning how to say no. For many, this is the hardest step, because they fear disappointing others. They worry about being judged as unkind or unhelpful. But every time you say yes when you want to say no, you dishonor your own well-being. Saying no is not rejection, it is honesty. It is saying, I cannot give what I do not have right now. This honesty not only protects your energy, but also builds respect. People may resist at first, but eventually they see that your time and energy have value. Another important step is setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are rules that protect your well-being. Without them, people will take more than you can give. With them, relationships become healthier. A boundary could be deciding you will not answer work calls after a certain hour. It could be limiting time with people who constantly drain your energy. It could be making sure you reserve part of your week for personal growth. These rules are not restrictions. They are freedom. They allow you to live in a way that respects your needs without guilt. Treating your own needs as important also means listening to your body and your mind. If you are tired, rest. If you are overwhelmed, pause. If you are uninspired, seek growth. Ignoring these signals leads to burnout, but when you honor them, you create balance. Too many people push themselves until they break, believing that sacrifice will win them approval. But approval does not heal exhaustion. What heals is rest, attention, and care. You must be the one to provide that for yourself. Consider how this principle changes relationships. When you constantly ignore your needs to satisfy others, you build quiet resentment. You may smile on the outside, but inside you feel taken for granted. Over time, this poisons your relationship. But when you respect your needs, you bring honesty into your connections. You no longer give out of guilt or fear. You give out of strength. People begin to experience the real you, not a drained version of you. That authenticity creates deeper, healthier connection. This mindset also builds confidence. When you treat your needs as important, you begin to see yourself as valuable. You stop measuring your worth by how much you sacrifice. You start to recognize that your life has meaning, not just because of what you give to others, but because of who you are. That shift changes the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you carry yourself. People notice it, they feel it, and they begin to treat you with more respect, because you have raised the standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. Practical exercises can help reinforce this change. One practice is to write down your non-negotiables, the things you must honor in your life to stay balanced. For example, 8 hours of sleep, time with family, an hour a day for personal growth, exercise or financial discipline. Once you write these down, treat them as commitments. Do not trade them away for every request that comes your way. Protect them as if your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Another practice is to track your energy. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I honor my needs today? Did I give myself space, care, and respect? If not, what got in the way? This reflection helps you notice patterns. Maybe you say yes too quickly. Maybe you let guilt drive your choices. When you see these patterns clearly, you can change them. Over time, you will learn how to protect your energy without apology. There is also a psychological truth worth remembering. When you neglect your needs, you unconsciously teach others to neglect them too. People model the way you treat yourself. If they see you constantly overextending, they assume that is acceptable. But if they see you standing firm, valuing your needs, and living with balance, they will adjust. Respect begins with self-respect. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how the world treats you. Some people fear that prioritizing their needs will make them appear selfish, but selfishness is not meeting your needs. Selfishness is ignoring others entirely. Respecting your needs is not about ignoring people. It is about including yourself in the picture. When you live with balance, you become more generous, not less. You give from a place of fullness, not emptiness. That kind of giving is sustainable. Another benefit of honoring your needs is that it sets an example for others. Many people around you may also struggle with self-neglect. When they see you take care of yourself, they gain permission to do the same. You become a model of healthy living. Parents especially must understand this. Children learn not only from what you say, but from what you do. If they see you ignoring your needs, they will learn to ignore theirs. If they see you respecting your needs, they will learn to value themselves. Over time, treating your needs as important changes your entire life. You stop living in cycles of exhaustion. You stop feeling invisible. You stop being defined only by what you do for others. Instead, you build a life that honors both giving and receiving, both serving and resting, both ambition and peace. That balance is what creates a meaningful, sustainable life. If you want to unlock your true potential, begin here. Do not wait for others to treat you as valuable. Show them how it is done by the way you treat yourself. Respect your needs, protect your energy, live with balance, and remember this truth: you are just as important as anyone else. The moment you believe that and live it, you change everything about the way you experience life. Chapter 5. Stop chasing love that costs you self-respect. One of the hardest lessons many people face in life is realizing that not all love is healthy. Love, when it is genuine and balanced, can be one of the greatest forces for growth and happiness. But love that requires you to sacrifice your dignity, your values, and your self-respect is not love. It is control, dependence, or desperation disguised as love. Too many people spend years chasing approval and affection from those who treat them poorly, hoping that if they just give more, tolerate more, or change themselves enough, they will finally be worthy of love. But this pursuit only leaves them broken, drained, and disconnected from their own worth. To truly unlock your potential, you must stop chasing love that costs you your self-respect. Real love does not demand that you shrink to fit someone else's comfort. Real love does not ask you to silence your voice, ignore your feelings, or accept disrespect. When you give up pieces of yourself in the name of love, you are not experiencing love, you are experiencing dependency. That kind of dynamic eats away at your confidence until you start to believe you are not enough on your own. You may think that holding on to such relationships will save you from loneliness, but the truth is, there is nothing lonelier than being with someone who does not truly respect you. Chasing unhealthy love often begins with a belief that you are incomplete without someone else. You tell yourself that you need them to feel whole, that their approval defines your value. This is dangerous because it gives another person control over your self-worth. If they give you attention, you feel valuable. If they withdraw it, you feel worthless. This roller coaster leaves you anxious, insecure, and dependent on someone else's moods. That is not love, that is giving away the steering wheel of your life. To break free from this cycle, you must first understand where it comes from. Many people chase unhealthy love because they learned early in life that affection had to be earned. Maybe a parent gave attention only when you behaved a certain way. Maybe you were praised for achievements, not for who you were. That conditioning teaches you that love is conditional, that you must work for it, that you must sacrifice yourself to keep it. But the truth is, the right kind of love never requires you to lose yourself. It sees you, values you, and respects you as you are. A key step is to look at the relationships in your life and ask one honest question. Do I feel respected here? Respect is the foundation of real love. Without it, affection is empty. Respect shows in the way someone speaks to you, listens to you, and values your boundaries. If you are constantly dismissed, belittled, or made to feel unworthy, then what you are chasing is not love. It is attachment rooted in fear. The longer you stay in that cycle, the more you lose faith in yourself. You must remember that love is not supposed to be begged for. You are not meant to chase someone who continually shows you that they do not care for your dignity. The more you chase, the more power you hand over, and the more power you give away, the weaker your sense of self becomes. A strong, meaningful life cannot be built on begging for affection. It is built on mutual respect, on a foundation where both people see each other as equals. The moment you stop chasing unhealthy love, you reclaim your strength. You begin to realize that your value was never dependent on how much someone else could give you. You see that love is meant to be shared, not traded at the expense of your identity. This shift requires courage. It is not easy to walk away from something that feels familiar, even if it is toxic, but every step you take toward protecting your dignity brings you closer to real freedom. Start practicing self-awareness in your interactions. Notice how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you feel uplifted, respected, and seen, or do you feel drained, small, and ignored? Your emotions are clues. If you consistently feel less than yourself around someone, it is a sign that the love you are chasing is costing you more than it gives. Pay attention to these signals and trust them. They are your guide to healthier connection. Another important practice is setting clear standards for how you expect to be treated. Write them down. For example, I will not tolerate disrespectful language. I will not sacrifice my values to keep someone's affection. I will not allow my time and energy to be exploited. These standards act as boundaries. They remind you that you have the power to choose who is allowed in your life. If someone cannot respect these standards, then they do not deserve your presence. This is not about closing yourself off from love. It is about creating space for the right kind of love to enter. When you stop chasing people who treat you poorly, you create room for people who will value you. And when you begin to value yourself, you naturally attract healthier relationships. People who respect themselves are drawn to others who do the same. Your dignity becomes a magnet for the right kind of connection. One of the hardest parts of this journey is dealing with fear of loneliness. Many people stay in toxic relationships because they believe being alone is worse than being disrespected. But loneliness is not the enemy. Settling for less than you deserve. When you embrace solitude as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, you start to see that being alone is far healthier than chasing love that depletes you. Solitude gives you space to heal, to rebuild your confidence, and to rediscover your worth. Practical steps can make this transformation real. Start by taking time each day to affirm your value. Remind yourself, I deserve respect. I deserve love that uplifts me. I deserve relationships that honor who I am. These statements may feel uncomfortable at first if you have been used to neglect. But over time, they reshape your mindset. You begin to expect more from yourself and from others. Also, practice slowing down in relationships. Instead of rushing to win affection, take time to observe how someone treats you consistently. Look at their actions, not just their words. Do they listen to you? Do they value your boundaries? Do they celebrate your growth? If not, then no matter how charming their words may be, the relationship will not serve your self-respect. Choosing slowly and wisely prevents you from falling into cycles of unhealthy chasing. Healing also means letting go of the need to prove your worth to anyone. You do not need to convince someone to love you. You do not need to earn your place in their life. If someone cannot see your value, that is their limitation, not yours. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you release yourself from endless strife. You begin to live from a place of wholeness instead of scarcity. This journey is not always easy. Walking away from love that costs your self-respect can feel painful at first. You may grieve the idea of what you hoped the relationship could be. You may feel doubt or guilt, but those emotions fade as you begin to rebuild your sense of worth. Over time, the space you create by letting go of unhealthy love fills with new opportunities, healthier relationships, and a deeper connection to yourself. Remember, love that is real never asks you to betray yourself. It never asks you to stay silent about your needs. It never asks you to endure constant disrespect. If you find yourself chasing that kind of love, stop, pause, step back, ask yourself, what is this costing me? If the answer is your dignity, your peace, or your happiness, then the price is too high. No relationship is worth the loss of your self-respect. The foundation of a strong and meaningful life is built on respect for yourself and from others. When you honor your dignity, you raise the standard of love you accept. You no longer chase what diminishes you. Instead, you create a life where love and respect go hand in hand. That is the kind of love worth waiting for. That is the kind of love that strengthens rather than weakens your potential. Choose to stop chasing love that requires you to trade your dignity. Stand firm in your worth. Believe that you are enough without begging for approval. Build a life that honors your value, and the right kind of love will meet you there.
Chapter 6. Give yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty. In today's world, many people wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They believe the more tired they are, the more valuable they become. They feel guilty if they slow down, as if resting means they are lazy or weak. But the truth is, no human being can perform at their best when they are constantly running on empty. If you want to unlock your potential, you must give yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty. Rest is not wasted time.
Rest is fuel for growth. Rest is what allows you to think clearly, to make good decisions, and to live with energy and purpose. Without it, you may still move, but you will not move with strength. Think about what happens when you ignore your need for rest. Your mind becomes cloudy. Small tasks feel heavy, your patience shrinks, and frustration takes its place. You stop enjoying the things you used to love, not because they changed, but because you are too drained to appreciate them. You cannot pour into your work, your goals, or your relationships if you are constantly running on fatigue. Yet, despite all this, many still push themselves past the limit because they fear what others will say if they take a break. They fear being seen as unproductive. That fear is misplaced. The real danger is not in resting, but in denying yourself the recovery you need. Giving yourself permission to rest begins with changing how you see it. Rest is not the opposite of work. It is part of work. Just as the body needs food to continue, it needs recovery to repair. The mind works the same way. When you give it time to recharge, it comes back sharper, more creative, and more resilient. Many breakthroughs, solutions, and fresh ideas are born, not when you are grinding endlessly, but when you step away, breathe, and allow your mind to reset. There is a deep psychology behind guilt and rest. Many people tie their worth to productivity. They believe their value comes from how much they do, how much they achieve, how much they give. So when they stop, even for a moment, they feel like they are failing. This is why guilt shows up when they rest. But your value as a person is not measured by how many hours you work. It is measured by the quality of your presence, by the strength of your mind, and by the health of your spirit. You cannot maintain any of those if you never pause. Learning to rest without guilt requires practice. At first, you may find it uncomfortable to take time for yourself. You may feel restless or anxious, but the more you allow yourself recovery, the more you begin to see its benefits. You notice your energy return. You notice your focus sharpen. You notice that tasks that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Rest is not stealing from your goals, it is protecting them. When you recover fully, you are more effective in everything you do. There are many forms of rest, and each plays a role in building your strength. Physical rest is obvious: sleep, relaxation, letting your body heal. But there is also mental rest, which means giving your brain a break from constant thinking, planning, and worrying. There is emotional rest, which means stepping back from toxic environments and allowing yourself peace. There is even creative rest, which means exposing yourself to silence, beauty, or inspiration so your imagination can breathe. When you understand that rest is multidimensional, you begin to see why it is not optional. It is essential. Another barrier to guilt-free rest is comparison. People look around and see others working late, pushing harder, sacrificing sleep. They think, if I stop, I'll fall behind. But comparison is a trap. You cannot measure your path against someone else's. You do not know their full story, and even if you did, your journey is not theirs. What matters is whether you are living in a way that sustains your health, your purpose, and your peace. Burning yourself out to match someone else's pace will not bring you success. It will only steal your joy. Practical steps can help you embrace rest without guilt. Start by scheduling it as seriously as you schedule work. Mark time for recovery on your calendar and honor it as non-negotiable. Whether it is sleep, time with family, exercise, or quiet reflection, treat it with importance. Another practice is to set boundaries around your energy. Do not allow every demand or request to invade your rest. Learn to say, I am unavailable right now, without apologizing. Boundaries are what protect your energy so that you can give your best when it matters most. It is also important to learn how to rest effectively. Many people confuse distraction with rest.
Scrolling endlessly on a phone or watching hours of television may feel like a break, but it does not always restore you. Real rest leaves you feeling refreshed, not empty. Ask yourself, what actually recharges me? For some it is reading. For others it is walking outside, practicing stillness, or enjoying quality sleep. Discover what works for you and commit to it. Another shift in mindset comes when you recognize that rest is an investment, not a cost. Just as you invest money to build wealth, you invest rest to build strength. Without it, your body and mind begin to withdraw from your future. You cannot create long-term success by sacrificing your health today. Every hour of meaningful rest is an investment in your ability to perform, to grow, and to sustain your progress. Rest also plays a powerful role in emotional balance. When you are tired, emotions feel heavier. Small challenges seem overwhelming. Conflict feels sharper. You say things you regret, not because you are unkind, but because you are depleted. But when you rest, your emotional resilience increases. You can handle stress calmly. You can respond instead of reacting. You can see situations with more clarity. This is how rest strengthens not just your productivity, but also your relationships. There is another truth worth remembering. You do not need permission from anyone else to rest. Too many people wait for validation. They want someone to tell them it's okay to pause, but your well-being is your responsibility. If you wait for approval, you may wait forever. The moment you decide that your rest is as valuable as your work, you take control of your life. That decision changes how you treat yourself and how others treat you. A good practice to release guilt is reframing the language you use. Instead of saying, "I am doing nothing," say, "I am recharging." Instead of thinking, "I wasted the day," say, "I gave my body and mind the recovery they needed." Words shape perception. When you speak about rest as purposeful, you begin to see it as part of your growth, instead of as a weakness. The long-term consequences of neglecting rest are severe. Burnout does not just affect your performance, it affects your health, your relationships, and your future. Stress builds, mistakes multiply, and opportunities slip away. Many only realize the value of rest after they collapse, after they hit a wall. But wisdom means learning before you reach that point. Choose to honor yourself now. Choose to rest before life forces you to. The more you practice guilt-free rest, the more balanced and grounded your life becomes. You start to work with energy instead of exhaustion. You begin to enjoy the process instead of merely surviving it. You feel more present in your relationships, more creative in your work, and more peaceful in your daily routine. That is the power of rest when it is valued and protected. So give yourself this gift. Stop believing that rest makes you less worthy. Stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. Stop tying your value to endless motion. You are human. You need recovery. And when you honor that truth, you become stronger, wiser, and more capable of building the life you want. Rest is not the enemy of success. It is the foundation of it. When you rest without guilt, you rise with power.
Chapter 7. Set standards that match the life you want. Every person lives according to standards, whether they realize it or not. Standards are the invisible rules you accept for yourself. They decide how you spend your time, how you treat your body, how you manage your money, how you allow others to treat you, and how far you will go in life. If your standards are low, you settle for less, and life responds by giving you less. If your standards are high and consistent with the kind of life you want, everything begins to change. You stop drifting, and you start shaping your future with intention. Setting standards that match the life you want is one of the most powerful decisions you can make, because it forces you to rise, it forces you to grow, and it forces you to live with dignity. Many people talk about goals, but fewer people talk about standards. A goal is something you aim to achieve. A standard is the level you refuse to fall below. You might say, I want to be healthy, but if your standard allows skipping exercise, eating poorly, and ignoring rest, then that goal remains just talk. Standards are the daily, non-negotiable rules that bring your goals to life. Without standards, goals are only wishes. With standards, goals become inevitable. Look at your life honestly and ask yourself, what have I been tolerating that does not match the life I want? Maybe you want financial freedom, but your standard allows constant overspending. Maybe you want a strong body, but your standard accepts unhealthy habits. Maybe you want respect in relationships, but your standard allows people to treat you without it. Until you raise your standards, nothing truly changes. Life will always meet you at the level you accept. The first step in setting standards is clarity. You must be clear about the kind of life you want. Do you want health? Then your standard must include discipline with food, exercise and sleep. Do you want wealth? Then your standard must include discipline with money and work. Do you want peace? Then your standard must include boundaries with people and commitments. Clarity gives direction. Without it, you create random standards that do not align with your vision. Raising standards requires courage because it means saying no to things you once allowed. It may mean walking away from relationships that do not respect you. It may mean breaking habits that once gave you comfort. It may mean demanding more of yourself than you ever have before. This process is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. Every time you raise a standard, you take control of your life. You send a message to yourself and to the world. This is what I will accept, and nothing less. One of the most important truths is that people do not rise to their goals, they fall to their standards. If your standard is that you only exercise when you feel like it, you will never achieve real health. If your standard is that you only work hard when motivation strikes, you will never build lasting success. Motivation comes and goes, but standards remain. When your standards are solid, you do not wait for feelings, you follow rules you set for yourself. That consistency builds results. Consider how standards shape your environment. If you accept disorder, your surroundings reflect it. If you accept disrespect, your relationships reflect it. If you accept procrastination, your results reflect it. But when you demand more, when you decide that your life will be built on order, respect and discipline, your environment adjusts. People either rise with you or fall away, but either way your life improves because you have decided what you will no longer tolerate. Setting standards is not about perfection. It is about raising the minimum level of what is acceptable to you. For example, you may not be rich yet, but your standard could be never living in debt. You may not have your dream body yet, but your standard could be exercising 5 days a week, no matter what. You may not have total peace yet, but your standard could be never allowing constant negativity in your inner circle. These commitments create momentum. Over time, they build the foundation of the life you want. To set effective standards, you must attach them to your identity. Instead of saying, I want to exercise, say I am someone who trains consistently. Instead of saying, I want to save money, say I am someone who respects my finances. When you tie standards to your identity, they become part of who you are. And when something becomes who you are, you no longer negotiate with it, you live it naturally. There will always be temptations to lower your standards. Life will test you. People will test you. Circumstances will tempt you to slip back into comfort. But every time you hold the line, you strengthen your self-respect. Standards are not just rules, they are declarations of worth. When you honor them, you prove to yourself that you matter. That inner respect becomes unshakable, and it spills into every area of your life.
Practical steps can help you define and live your standards. Start by writing down the top 5 areas of life that matter most to you. Health, relationships, finances, career and personal growth. Then for each one, write down the minimum standard you will no longer fall below. Be specific. For health it could be, I will not go more than 2 days without exercise. For finances, it could be, I will save at least 10% of every income I earn. For relationships, it could be, I will not allow constant disrespect, even from family. These commitments, written and reviewed daily, become your compass. Another step is accountability. Share your standards with someone you trust, not to seek approval, but to strengthen commitment. Knowing that someone else is aware of your rules creates additional pressure to live by them. Over time, you will not need external accountability because self-respect will become enough. But in the beginning, accountability helps you stay consistent. It is also essential to celebrate progress. Living by higher standards is not easy, and you will face moments of resistance. When you hold the line, acknowledge it. When you honor your commitment, recognize it. This reinforces your belief that you are capable of living with discipline. The more you celebrate, the more natural these standards become. Remember that standards not only guide your actions, but also shape what you attract. People who live with high standards naturally attract others with the same values. Opportunities begin to appear because discipline creates reliability, and reliability creates trust. On the other hand, if you live with low standards, you attract people and opportunities that reflect mediocrity. Life always mirrors the standards you live by. Some may argue that raising standards is too rigid or demanding, but the truth is, you are already living by standards. You may just not like the results they are producing. Every life reflects the standards behind it. The only question is whether those standards are serving you or holding you back. Once you realize this, the choice becomes clear. If you want a better life, you must raise your standards to match it. Think of the transformation this brings. Imagine you raise your standard for health, and over time your energy increases. Imagine you raise your standard for finances, and eventually your stress decreases. Imagine you raise your standard for relationships, and suddenly you are surrounded by respect and support. Each shift compounds, and soon your life feels entirely different, not because the world changed, but because you changed what you demanded of yourself and of life. This is the power of standards. They determine the floor you will not fall below. They decide how you live each day. They decide how others treat you. They decide what kind of future you build. When you align your standards with the life you want, success stops being an accident and starts being the natural result of who you are. Your potential is not unlocked by luck or chance. It is unlocked by the rules you live by. Set them high, live them daily, protect them fierce, and watch your life rise to meet them.
Chapter 8. Walk away from people who do not value you. One of the hardest but most necessary acts of self-respect is learning when to walk away from people who do not value you. It is easy to talk about goals, habits, and discipline, but none of that will hold together if you surround yourself with those who constantly dismiss your worth. Human beings are influenced by their environment, and no influence is stronger than the company they keep. If you allow people in your life who take you for granted, who use you only when it benefits them, or who treat your presence as if it doesn't matter, you slowly begin to absorb their view of you. Over time, you start believing that maybe you don't deserve respect. That belief is poison, and the only cure is choosing to step away from anyone who cannot see your value. Many people stay in one-sided relationships because they fear being alone. They convince themselves that even negative company is better than no company. But loneliness in the presence of people who don't value you is far heavier than the solitude of being on your own. When you are alone, you at least have the chance to rebuild your strength and reconnect with yourself. When you are surrounded by people who don't respect you, your spirit is drained little by little until you feel like a shadow of yourself. Walking away is not abandonment, it is protection. It is choosing peace over constant disrespect. People who do not value you will show it in many ways. They will dismiss your ideas, talk over you, or make you feel unimportant. They will ignore your boundaries, expecting you to give while offering little in return. They may belittle your dreams, making you feel foolish for wanting more. They may treat your time as if it has no value, calling only when they need something, but disappearing when you need support. These are all signs that you are not being valued. And when you see these signs, you have two choices: tolerate them and shrink, or walk away and grow. Walking away is not always easy. It often means detaching from people you have known for years, people you once trusted, or even people you love. That is why many avoid it. They hold on to the hope that things will change. They wait for the day that person suddenly sees their value. But waiting is dangerous because it keeps you stuck in a cycle of disappointment. People rarely change because you hope they will. They change only if they want to, and you cannot force that. The only thing you can control is whether you allow them to keep disrespecting you. The decision to walk away is not made from anger. It is made from clarity. It is recognizing that continuing to stay is costing you more than it gives. It is understanding that your dignity is worth more than their presence. And it is accepting that not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Life is a journey, and some people belong only to a chapter, not the whole book. Learning to let them go allows you to create space for those who truly see and value you. The fear of letting go often comes from believing that if you walk away, you will have nothing left. But the truth is, when you walk away from those who don't value you, you are not left with nothing, you are left with yourself. And when you reconnect with yourself, you realize that you were never lacking in the first place. Your worth does not come from the opinions of others. It comes from how you choose to treat yourself. By walking away, you are making a loud statement. I am worth more than this. That statement echoes inside you, strengthening your confidence and teaching you to never settle again. Practical steps can help you make this transition. Start by identifying patterns. Write down the names of the people in your life and how you feel after spending time with them. If you consistently feel drained, dismissed, or unappreciated, that is a sign. Then ask yourself, what role does this person play in my growth? Do they add or subtract from my life? This honest reflection helps you see clearly. Once you have identified those who do not value you, make a plan to step back. It might be gradual distance, reducing how much time you spend together, or it might be immediate separation if the relationship is harmful. The key is consistency. Don't pull away for a week and then run back out of guilt. Hold firm. Another step is to strengthen your boundaries. Sometimes people devalue you because you have not shown them how to treat you. By setting limits, refusing to answer late-night calls, saying no to unreasonable demands, or speaking up when disrespected, you send a message that your time and energy have worth. If they continue to ignore those boundaries, you have your answer. You do not need to stay where respect does not exist. Walking away also requires building courage in solitude. Spend time on your own, not as punishment, but as healing. Use that time to grow, to reflect, and to rebuild your vision for your life. Read, exercise, pursue your goals, and invest in personal growth. By doing this, you begin to see that your value has never been dependent on anyone else. You learn that you can stand strong on your own. And from that strength, you attract people who respect you. There will always be a voice in your head that says, what if I am being too harsh? What if I should give them one more chance? But you must remember, respect is not begged for.
Respect is earned and freely given. If you have already communicated your needs and they continue to disregard them, then staying longer will only break you further. Choosing to leave is not cruelty, it is self-preservation, and preserving your dignity is the greatest responsibility you have to yourself. Another important truth is that walking away does not mean you hate or resent the person. It simply means you refuse to keep sacrificing your self-worth for their company. You can wish them well and still move on. You can release them without bitterness. Carrying anger with you keeps you tied to them, but walking away with peace means you free yourself completely. You are not bound by what they did or didn't do. You are focused on your own growth. Consider the long-term benefits of this choice. When you surround yourself only with those who value you, your confidence rises. You feel encouraged, supported, and respected. You begin to expect more from life, because the people around you remind you that you deserve more. Your energy is no longer wasted on trying to prove yourself to the wrong crowd. Instead, it is invested in building your goals, your dreams, and your future. The kind of life you want cannot be built while holding on to those who do not respect you. Their influence will always drag you down. Their words will always plant doubt. Their presence will always steal energy. By walking away, you create the environment needed for growth. You create space for supportive friendships, respectful partnerships, and uplifting community. And most importantly, you create a life where your self-respect stands firm. Walking away takes courage, but the reward is freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from constant disappointment, freedom from being undervalued. And in that freedom, you discover peace, clarity, and strength. You learn that love and respect are not things you have to chase. They are things you attract when you value yourself. So choose today to examine your life. Choose to ask yourself who truly values you and who does not. Choose to step away from those who drain your dignity. Choose to create space for respect, for peace, and for growth. Because when you walk away from people who do not value you, you are not losing anything, you are gaining yourself. And that is the most valuable thing of all.
Chapter 9. Remind yourself daily that you deserve good things. One of the greatest battles a person will ever face is the battle against self-doubt. You can have talent, intelligence, and opportunity, but if you secretly believe you don't deserve good things, you will sabotage your progress at every step. That is why it is not enough to hope for a better life. You must remind yourself daily that you deserve it. When this truth is anchored in your mind, you stop pushing away opportunities. You stop settling for less. You stop questioning whether success, happiness, and peace belong to you. You begin to claim them with confidence, and your life begins to reflect that inner belief. Many people carry invisible scripts written by their past. They were told they were not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of love or respect. They grew up in environments where joy was scarce, where success belonged to other people, and where dreams were dismissed as unrealistic. Over time, these voices became internal. Even as adults, they hear that same whisper, "This is not for you, stay small, don't expect too much." Without realizing it, they live out a life limited by someone else's words. The only way to break free is to replace those voices with a new one. Your own voice reminding you every day that you deserve good things. Deserving good things is not about entitlement. It is not about expecting life to hand you rewards without effort. It is about recognizing your worth as a human being and believing that effort and growth should bring good results. When you believe you deserve better, you take better actions. You eat in a way that supports your health because you believe your body deserves care. You pursue opportunities because you believe your future deserves progress. You set boundaries because you believe your peace deserves protection. These choices are only possible when you see yourself as worthy of good things. The mind is powerful, but it is also fragile. If you don't train it, it defaults to doubt. That is why daily reminders are so critical. Once is not enough. A single moment of motivation will not erase years of self-doubt. You must repeat it until it becomes part of you. Tell yourself every morning, I deserve good health, good relationships, and a meaningful life. Say it even when you don't fully believe it. Over time, repetition builds belief. Belief builds action. Action builds results. And results reinforce the truth you've been reminding yourself of. Think of how your day changes when you start with that reminder. If you wake up thinking, I don't deserve much, you move sluggishly, you accept whatever comes, and you allow others to dictate your path. But if you wake up thinking, I deserve good things, your energy shifts, you approach tasks with focus. You treat yourself with care. You don't chase people who don't respect you because you know you deserve better. That single shift in mindset ripples into every decision you make. There are practical ways to build this daily habit. One method is affirmations, but not empty words. You must connect them to your actions. Don't just say, I deserve health. Follow it by drinking water, exercising, or eating nourishing food. Don't just say, I deserve financial stability. Follow it by saving money or learning a skill. Affirmations only work when they are tied to real choices. Otherwise, they remain words floating in the air. Another method is journaling. At the end of each day, write down 3 examples of good things you allowed yourself to experience. Maybe you took time to rest, maybe you turned down something that didn't serve you, or maybe you celebrated a small win. Seeing these patterns in writing reinforces the belief that you are worthy of good things. It also helps you recognize how often you may have denied yourself those opportunities in the past. Your environment also plays a huge role. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your worth, instead of those who tear you down. If you constantly spend time with people who criticize, belittle, or ignore you, their voices will drown out your own. But if you spend time with people who encourage, respect, and uplift you, their influence strengthens your belief that you deserve more. This is why choosing the right company is not just a social decision. It is a psychological one. Self-talk is another area that needs attention. Notice the way you speak to yourself when things go wrong. Do you say, I knew I would fail? Or do you say, this is a lesson, and I will grow from it? The way you frame challenges determines whether you see yourself as someone who deserves to keep moving forward, or as someone who should give up. Train yourself to speak with compassion. Remind yourself that mistakes do not erase your worth. They are proof that you are trying, and trying is always valuable. It's also important to understand that reminding yourself you deserve good things does not mean waiting passive. You cannot sit back and expect life to hand you success because you deserve it. Life rewards effort, but when you believe you are worthy, you actually take that effort seriously. You stop undermining yourself. You stop procrastinating. You stop rejecting opportunities before they even arrive. Believing you deserve more is the fuel. Action is the engine. Both are necessary. Consider how this principle changes relationships. If you do not believe you deserve respect, you will accept mistreatment. If you do not believe you deserve love, you will cling to relationships that drain you. But if you remind yourself daily that you deserve good things, you raise the standard for how others treat you. You no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer chase validation. You choose relationships that reflect the value you see in yourself. That shift alone can transform your entire emotional life. Daily reminders also protect you from despair in difficult seasons. Life is not always smooth. There will be setbacks, losses, and disappointments. In those moments, it's easy to think, maybe this is all I deserve.
But if you've built the habit of reminding yourself daily, you hold on to a deeper truth. Setbacks are temporary, but your worth is permanent. That perspective allows you to keep moving forward instead of sinking into hopelessness. Practical rituals help reinforce this mindset. Begin your morning with a statement of worth. Something simple like, "Today I will treat myself with respect because I deserve good things." Carry that into your day with small actions, choosing nourishing food, speaking kindly to yourself, or pursuing a goal. At night, reflect on how you lived out that belief. The key is consistency. The more often you remind yourself, the stronger the belief becomes, until it is no longer a reminder, but a natural truth you live by. Another powerful practice is visualization. Picture yourself living the life you believe you deserve. See yourself healthy, confident, respected, and fulfilled. Visualization works because the brain doesn't distinguish strongly between what you imagine and what you experience. By repeatedly picturing yourself in that state, you begin to align your actions with that vision. You begin to live as if you already deserve it, because deep down, you know you do. There will always be resistance. Old voices will try to return. Doubt will creep in. You may hear whispers of unworthiness when you fail, or when things move slowly. But that is why the word daily is so important. You cannot rely on reminders once a week or once a month. The world constantly tries to convince you that you are less. You must consistently remind yourself that you are more. This is not arrogance, it is survival. It is the practice of protecting your mind from the negativity that surrounds you. The beauty of this practice is that over time, you no longer just remind yourself, you start to live it. You wake up expecting good things. You approach opportunities with confidence. You no longer ask, "Do I deserve this?" Instead you say, "I am ready for this." That is the shift that changes everything. The truth is simple, you do deserve good things, not because you are perfect, not because life owes you, but because you are human, and your worth is not negotiable. When you remind yourself daily, you align your actions, your mindset, and your relationships with that truth. And when you live from that place of worth, you unlock the potential that was always within you.
Chapter 10. Keep choosing yourself until it becomes your lifestyle. Choosing yourself is not a single moment or a single decision. It is a way of life that must be practiced daily until it becomes your natural state. Many people believe choosing themselves means being selfish or disregarding others, but it is the opposite. Choosing yourself means recognizing that your life, your time, your energy, and your future matter just as much as anyone else's. It means showing up for yourself every single day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when others don't understand, and even when it requires walking a harder path. If you only choose yourself once in a while, you will quickly fall back into old patterns of neglect and people-pleasing. But when you keep choosing yourself consistently, it becomes a lifestyle, and from that lifestyle, everything else in your life begins to change. The reason this must become a lifestyle is because the world will always test your resolve. There will always be people who want more of your time than you can give, situations that demand you put your needs aside, and voices that tell you to sacrifice yourself to prove your worth. If you do not anchor yourself in the daily habit of choosing yourself, you will bend under these pressures. But when you make this choice repeatedly, it hardens into identity. You no longer have to remind yourself constantly. You simply live it, because it has become who you are. Think about the moments in your life where you betrayed yourself by ignoring your own needs. Perhaps you stayed silent when you wanted to speak up. Perhaps you stayed in environments that drained you because you didn't want to upset anyone. Perhaps you took on responsibilities that broke your spirit just to keep someone else happy. Those choices do not happen once, they repeat. And every time they repeat, they weaken you. The only way to break that cycle is to reverse it, Instead of repeatedly neglecting yourself, you repeatedly choose yourself. Over time, that repetition rewires your behavior and creates a stronger version of you. Choosing yourself begins in small daily decisions. It may look like saying no when you mean no. It may look like taking an hour to rest when your body is telling you it's tired. It may look like protecting your focus when distractions are calling for your attention. Each small act sends a signal to your mind: I matter, my needs matter, my growth matters. These signals, repeated day after day, accumulate into a lifestyle. You stop questioning whether you should value yourself, you simply do it automatically. One of the biggest obstacles is guilt. Many people feel guilty for prioritizing themselves because they've been conditioned to believe they must always put others first. But guilt fades when you begin to see the results. When you consistently choose yourself, your energy improves, your confidence rises, and your presence with others becomes stronger. You realize that valuing yourself is not neglecting others, it's giving them the best version of you. The more you live this truth, the less guilt has power over you. There is also a deeper psychological shift that happens when choosing yourself becomes your lifestyle. You stop seeking permission. You no longer wait for someone to tell you it's okay to pursue your dreams, set your boundaries, or take care of your needs. You recognize that permission was never theirs to give. You are the one responsible for your life, and by choosing yourself consistently, you step fully into that responsibility. That shift changes the way you make decisions, the way you walk into a room, and the way you carry yourself. To build this into a lifestyle, consistency is everything. You cannot choose yourself once a week and expect transformation. You must do it daily. Each morning, remind yourself that you have a responsibility to honor your needs and protect your energy. Each evening, reflect on whether you lived true to that. This practice builds accountability, and accountability builds strength. At first it takes effort, but soon it becomes natural, the same way brushing your teeth or eating meals has become second nature. Practical exercises can help make this a permanent part of your life. One is to create a personal code, a list of non-negotiable ways you will choose yourself every day. It could be committing to a certain amount of sleep, protecting your financial goals, exercising regularly, or refusing to engage in toxic conversation. Review this code daily and live by it without compromise. Another practice is self-check-ins. Throughout the day, ask yourself, am I honoring myself right now, or am I neglecting myself? These questions keep you aware and prevent you from slipping back into old patterns. It is also important to recognize that choosing yourself is not about perfection. You will have days when you slip, when you give in to pressure, or when you ignore your needs, but what matters is that you return quickly. Do not use one mistake as an excuse to abandon your growth. Every time you realign and choose yourself again, you strengthen the habit. Over time, the slips become fewer, and the lifestyle becomes stronger. Consider how this principle changes your relationships. When you consistently choose yourself, people learn how to treat you. They see that your time, your boundaries, and your dignity are non-negotiable. Those who truly respect you will stay and adjust. Those who only wanted to use you will fall away. Either way, you win, because your life becomes aligned with respect and authenticity. This also makes your relationships healthier. You are no longer giving out of fear or guilt, you are giving from strength. Choosing yourself also impacts your goals and achievements. Many people abandon their dreams because they spend all their energy serving everyone else's agenda. But when you build the lifestyle of choosing yourself, you protect time for your own growth. You pursue the skills you need, the projects that matter, and the goals that inspire you. You no longer feel guilty for investing in yourself because it has become your way of life.
And as you grow, the people around you benefit too, because your growth creates opportunities for everyone connected to you. This practice also strengthens resilience. Life will bring setbacks. You will face failures, criticism, and disappointment. But if you are anchored in the habit of choosing yourself, those challenges will not break you. You will not abandon yourself when things get hard. Instead, you will stand firm, knowing that no matter what happens externally, you will always value yourself internally. That resilience is the foundation of long-term success. There is also peace in this way of living. When you don't choose yourself, you live in constant conflict. You say yes when you want to say no, you give when you don't have the energy. You stay silent when you need to speak. That conflict eats at you. But when you choose yourself daily, you live with alignment. Your actions reflect your values, and your life reflects your worth. That alignment creates peace, and peace gives you the clarity to keep growing. Over time, choosing yourself transforms from something you do to something you are. It becomes part of your identity. You no longer have to remind yourself constantly, because it feels unnatural not to do it. That is the power of repetition. It turns conscious effort into unconscious habit. At that point, no one can convince you to go back to a life of self-neglect, because you have built a lifestyle rooted in dignity. The long-term reward is freedom. Freedom from guilt, freedom from dependence, freedom from constant compromise. You live by your own standards, not by the demands of others. You build a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your worth. And because you have chosen yourself consistently, you have the strength to face challenges, the discipline to pursue goals, and the peace to enjoy the journey. This is what it means to keep choosing yourself until it becomes your lifestyle. It is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong commitment. Each day you practice it, you grow stronger. Each day you honor it. Your life aligns more with who you truly are. And each day you live it, you prove to yourself and to the world that your worth is not negotiable. When choosing yourself becomes your way of life, you stop surviving and start living with clarity, strength, and freedom.